Uh-oh, how am I gonna pay my bills? I'm running out of money. Uh-oh. Coping with crisis. I'm Jane Tweedy, and I'm the founder of FAQ Business Training. And at this point in time, you may be feeling the pinch a bit. You may be feeling it is a bit difficult to pay your bills. So today we're going to talk about reducing expenses. Reducing expenses comes in multiple forms. Obviously, we have bills that we were going to pay or have to pay. Now, first of all, it's about making sure these are bills we still need to pay. Do we still need to keep a membership for something if we're not using it? Often we subscribe to things like memberships and we just don't ever stop them. It's why people sell the membership programs. People just keep paying and paying. So look at your bills and make sure they're actually bills you need. Now, this particular one is an interesting example. It is a online business registration form. Now, I need to do that for my businesses if I want to keep them going, which is fine. I do not, however, need to use this particular channel to pay. Now, a lot of people, when they started their businesses, particularly in Australia, they Googled things like Australian business name registration. And what came up was ads at the top of the page. So instead of paying nothing for an ABN and maybe $80 to register the business name for 3 years, they paid one of these questionable companies that take advantage of people a lot more. So for instance, I know people who have paid $60 for their free ABN. They've paid $298 for their 3-year ASIC registration, which should have only been $80. So things like this are things that we can make sure that we're using the right channels. It's a really good time to check and get quotes. For instance, my business insurance just came up for renewal. And at a hefty $4,000, it is one of my biggest expenses in my business. So it makes total sense for me to go out there and get some quotes and at least check it. So I did. I went to another party and just got them to do a bit of rough and dirty on my numbers as well to see whether that $4,000 was in fact fair and reasonable. And unfortunately, it was. So that's fine, but now I know to pay that $4,000 and be done with it. I'm not going to move and shop around for a few bucks, but I did need to know if I was paying $4,000 when I should have only been paying $2,000. So this is a really great time to do a bit of checking and shopping around for the things that we have to keep paying. Now, a lot of the things we don't necessarily have to keep paying. That membership we signed up to some software that we're not even using anymore, make sure we cut that. So look at your bank statements, look at what's coming through and say, do I really need this or do I really need this right now? So some of those memberships can be put on hold. Somebody did this exercise last year and they went through all their little monthly things they signed up to, and each thing by itself was like $10 here and $10 there, and you think, no big deal, right? $10 is $10. But all of the little $10 added up to about $400. So that is getting to be a sizable amount of money every month. So one of the early steps in checking our expenditure is whether we actually need it. So check for the things that we don't need anymore and cut those that we do not. Or look at alternative providers. A really good example of alternative provider checking is phones. Good old phones. Oh my gosh, I still see people that are paying $100 a month, not for their phone cost plus their plan, but just for their plan. I'm like, dude, why are you paying $100 when I'm paying like $25 and I'm getting 20 gigs of data or whatever it is, and I'm getting unlimited calls and texts and I can call New Zealand and various other countries. I'm like, oh my gosh. So think about what you actually need and whether you're just paying it because you've been paying it or whether you actually need this and you want to continue it. So it's not about shopping around for the cheapest price. I don't advocate for that, but I shop around to make sure that I'm at least getting good value from what I'm paying for. So that's another great tip for checking. Another thing you can do is to see what your state or local territory are offering you. I know in New South Wales, on their service New South Wales, you can actually go through a checklist, put in your details and say, what type of family you are, do you drive your car, do you use tolls and all that type of stuff. and it will spit out and tell you all the things you may be eligible for. And there may be things on there you had no idea about. Maybe you've been using the M5 for tolls and maybe you could have been claiming that back. So find out anything that you're not aware of right now that you can get deductions for. Things like your electricity. When was the last time, say you moved house like we did 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you move in, you set your phone and your power and all that stuff up, your internet up, and you kind of just set and forget. But things change over time. The internet space, obviously things have changed markedly. We've moved to NBN. So obviously we did a reset then for the NBN. So that's not so long ago. But even at that, I probably need to check that maybe next year just to make sure I'm still on a good plan. But even saying that, within the company that we're with, Tangerine Telecom, we've actually upped our plan twice. And the first one, we upped our plan for no cost to a much better plan. So definitely check what's available with your existing providers. That's a really big one. The NBN, for example, but there's other things out there. The other huge one, of course, one of the biggest expenses we have is our power. Make sure you're on a good deal with your power. Now, there are people that check this for you. There's companies like ACN that have people that will check it for you. But do remember, they do only have one thing often to sell. So you do need to sort of make sure that you are actually getting a good deal. For instance, we did that kind of check and found, yeah, it looks like maybe we could get a better, slightly better deal. And I mean slight. It was only a fraction of a deal. And because of the fine print, it was actually potentially a worse deal than what we already had. But what I actually did is it sort of prompted me to go, okay. And I went to my energy retailer and I got my discount changed from 15% to 30%. Now that's a big change, a big improvement in my power bills. So all these little things add up. So we've got potentially government channels that can show us reductions we can make. We can check that we're not paying things we don't need to pay anymore. We can make sure we're not opting for the expensive version of something instead of the real version and the proper version. There's a lot of things we can do to save ourselves some money. If this has been of interest to you, I'd love for you to keep checking out our tips series to help you cope with crisis. Oh, but wait, there's more. The more is actually one of the biggest ones and the most important, the banking. So with your banking, have you gone and taken advantage of lower interest rates? Have you reassessed things? Now, for some of you, this will not be the time to contact your bank. If you're in a bit of a tricky situation with your work and you don't really have any work and you were employed before, it may not be the time to go and negotiate a better deal. But for those of you which do still have two incomes or whatever, are still working quite happily, then now may be the chance for you to go and actually ask for a better deal from your bank. So if you're still getting 4% and things interest rate on your home loan, you may find you can drop that all the way down to 2%. Do also bear in mind that you can do things like move money from different sources. So you might have credit card debt. Move that to personal loan or something, and that will lower your cost of your debt. So please take advantage of this time of low interest rates to actually get some of those locked in for longer terms as well. You can lock in a home loan rate or a 3-year home loan rate anyway for only a few percent. Why not lock some of that in? Eventually the market will recover. So it's not going to go lower. So, there's nowhere to go down from zero in the wholesale sort of market. So there's not really much further it could go. Therefore, you might as well take advantage of these lower, longer term rates for the fact that in the last year or so, you're going to do better off. But also some of these lower term fixed rates are actually lower than the variable rate. So you're getting instant savings anyway. But take advantage of that bank side. It's pretty good for some of you. That's my bonus tip. Remember, I'm Jane Tweedy. I'm from FAQ Business Training, and this is our Coping with Crisis series.